In a 1966 article, Time magazine, looking ahead toward the future, and what the rise of automation would mean for average Americans, what the article was about. It concluded, by 2000, the machines will be producing so much that everyone in the U.S. will, in effect, be independently wealthy. With government benefits, even non-working families will have, by one estimate, an annual income of $30,000 to $40,000. Now, that was in 1966 dollars. It'd be like $100,000, $120,000 a year now.
For the immigrants who were welcomed by this statue, America was truly a land of opportunity. Once they arrived, they found, as my parents did, not an easy life, but a very hard life. But for many, there were friends and relatives to help them get started, to help them make a home, get a job, settle down in the new country. There were many rewards for hard work, enterprise, and ability. Life was hard, but opportunity was real.
The premise was simple. With better technology, companies would become more efficient. They'd be able to make more things in less time. Profits would skyrocket, Americans would bring home higher and higher paychecks, and all the while working less and less. So by the year 2000, back in 1966, looking forward, things would look like this.
There were few government programs to turn to and nobody expected them. But also, there were few rules and regulations. There were no licenses, no permits, no red tape to restrict them. They found, in fact, a free market, and most of them thrived on it. Many people still come to the United States driven by the same pressures and attracted by the same promise. You can find them in places like this. It's Chinatown in New York, one of the centers of the garment industry, a place where hundreds of thousands of newcomers have had their first taste of life in the new country. The people who live and work here are like the early settlers. They want to better their lot, and they're prepared to work hard to do so.
Turns out, predictions about the leisure society were dead wrong. As this chart shows, productivity, well, here, now it shows, productivity did increase significantly during the 1960s. This actually starts from 1947 up to 2000. Mostly thanks to automation and better technology. Unfortunately, wages didn't, and neither did leisure time.
Kind of a factory that my mother worked in when she came to this country for the first time at the age of 14, almost 90 years ago. And if there had not been factories like this here then, at which she could have started to work and earned a little money, she wouldn't have been able to come. And if I existed at all, I'd be a Russian or a Hungarian today instead of American. Of course, she didn't stay here a long time. She stayed here while she learned the language, while she developed some feeling for the country, and gradually she was able to make a better life for herself. Similarly, the people who are here now, they are like my mother, mostly immigrants from a distant country. They came here because they liked it here better and had more opportunities. A place like this gives them a chance to get started. They're not going to stay here very long or forever.
In the 1950s, before that Time magazine article predicted the leisure society was written, the average American working in manufacturing put in about 42 hours of work a week. Today, average working people put in manufacturing about 40 hours a week, meaning despite the fact that productivity has increased 400% since 1950, Americans are only working on average 2 hours less a week. Just 2 hours less. That's it. Think about the math for a second. If productivity is 4 times higher today than in 1950, then Americans should be able to work 4 times less, or just 10 hours a week, to afford the same 1950s lifestyle, when a family of 4 could get by on just 1 paycheck, own a home, own a car, put the kids through school, take a vacation every now and then, and retire comfortably. That is the definition of the leisure society.
We have become a lazy and entitled population. In my own small way, I was an employer for 20 years as a chef. In those 20 years, I cannot think of a single time that an American-born kid ever walked into my restaurant, any restaurant I ever worked in, and asked for a job as a dishwasher.
Wondering what this is? Presenting the IFB industrial dishwasher. 1,000 plates in an hour and over 500 glasses, all at the same time.
We refer back to our alien observing human civilization. It will see individual humans involved in a complex network of social relationships with other humans.
And it will also see real tangible resources and technology. That each of these four things exist in the physical world is not open for debate.
Affirmative. Regardless of whatever economic system the humans are using, there will be individual humans, social relationships, resources and technology.
With this in mind, we shall ask the question, what is an economic system?
A dictionary definition says it is the management of the resources of a community, country, etc., especially with a view to its productivity.
Basically, in order to form a civilization, individual humans must form social relationships with each other.
Affirmative. And just like the social relationships between individual birds have certain rules, so do the relationships between humans.
With respect to making and sharing goods and resources, these rules are called the economic system.
Or in other words, we can say an economic system is a paradigm, which tells humans how to interact with each other, in terms of the management of the resources and technology available.
Well, one of the big questions, I think, is, well, number one is, what is capitalism, or when did it come about? Because, as you say in the book, there's been commerce for centuries or millennia, so what makes it different than just commerce or trading or...
I think the difference is what had to happen before capitalism could emerge, and that was an agricultural revolution that enabled societies to feed their people with fewer and fewer workers. That released people for other pursuits, but it released money for other purchases. And I think this is what people don't recognize, is that one of the reasons that for millennia very sophisticated societies had lived with scarcity is because it took upwards of 80% of their people to produce enough food. Right. Now, that agricultural revolution didn't force capitalism, but it made it possible.
Economic systems can only be judged in the context of surrounding resources and technology.
Following this line of thought, we will reiterate that the validity of each meme in the spiral is totally dependent on context.
And in terms of human civilization, the context is nature and technology. Hunter-gatherers, agrarian and industrial age humans all had dramatically different kinds of social relationships to match differences in technology.
For much deeper analysis of this train of thought, and implications for the monetary system, we highly recommend the YouTube video Awakening.
Awakening is without a doubt the best, 30-minute presentation ever created, about any topic, in all of human history. True economics is the study of how social relationships adapt to nature and technology.
Since human civilization is always updating technology, it therefore follows that economic paradigms must also be continually updated.
These communist robots need to go back to Cuba. Capitalism is the only economic system that ever has worked, and the only one that ever will work. It's based on natural laws given to us from God. These natural laws say I am entitled to the fruit of my labor, but I'm not entitled to steal anything from you. That's an eternal truth, it will never change.
Thank you. We will cover that objection shortly. Getting back on track, only now do we ask, what role does money play in all of this?
Money is a contrivance, which does not exist in the real physical world. Our alien does not see it.
You fucking communist robot. Of course an alien observer will see money. It's all over the place. Even Abu, the village idiot, knows money is real.
I beg of you, please give me some money. I have not eaten for days.
It is true, paper, fiat money is not really money. True money is gold and silver, because they have intrinsic value.
We were terribly sorry, but gold is not real money.
For if you take some gold and silver and bring to a lab for scientific inquiry, no scientists will ever find that quality of gold which makes it quote-unquote real money. The belief in money, as the foundational basis of economics, can only lead to a very distorted view of reality.
There is only one holistic system of systems. One vast and immane, interwoven, interacting, multivariate, multinational dominion of dollars. Petrodollars, electrodollars, multi-dollars, Reichmarks, Rins, rubles, pounds, and shekels. It is the international system of currency which determines the totality of life on this planet.
This begs the question, what is money?
Money is a token of value, invented to facilitate trade between humans.
And, why was money invented in the first place?
This is a complex topic, but we can safely break it down to scarcity, and the need for large amounts of socially necessary human labor. So if it's sometime around the year 1776 and
Jill weaves 20 yards of linen, Bob makes a coat, Amy distills brandy, and Ed publishes a Bible.
the use of money can facilitate trade between them in a way that simple barter could not.
However, Jill happens to be a very lazy worker. She weaves very little linen, so she cannot afford as much brandy as she would like, and thus has trouble sustaining her binge-drinking alcoholic lifestyle.
On the other hand, Bob is a moral man, with a high work ethic. He realizes that the world is full of scarcity and a need for lots of human labor. So he works hard, and makes enough coats so he can afford to purchase a Bible. The Word of God then helps to reinforce Bob's high moral character.
Until such time when Bob sees Jill selling herself on the streets, and gives into temptation.
But this is okay, because Jill was a lazy worker.
And in 1776 there was scarcity, a need for a lot of human labor. So it was good to punish the lazy and reward the hard-working people.
And it would have been wrong to look to the government for help. For in the context of this era, there is simply no such thing as a free lunch.
We're living now with a third or fourth generation that have been taught that entitlements are rights. And liberty and rights don't have anything to do with entitlements. Entitlements means that you can take somebody else's money, and the government's there to redistribute it. So you can't do it. You have to do, waste, fraud, and abuse. We have to do whatever we can, but that's not it. It's the philosophy of the entitlement system.
Based on the way capitalism apologists talk, you would think that in 20+1 century Earth,
our alien observer sees a world where scarcity and the need for large amounts of human labor prevail.
But looking back at reality, this is simply not the case.
200 years ago the monetary system did help to facilitate trade between humans.
But today things are backwards.
And humans trade pointless goods and services to facilitate the monetary system.
Affirmative. And anytime we see humans serving a paradigm, instead of the paradigm serving humans, then we know there is a very dysfunctional paradigm.
To exemplify how human civilization serves capitalism, instead of capitalism serving human civilization, we will cover 3 types of jobs.
First, are jobs that serve no social function whatsoever. They only exist to facilitate the movement of money.
Examples of these include accountants, stockbrokers, marketers, advertisers, cashiers, salespeople, and most everyone in the legal profession.
In terms of the physical world, and real social contribution, these jobs produce nothing. They only exist to facilitate the movement of money. And money is not a real thing.
Next are jobs that could be automated, if human civilization actually updated to 20+1 century technology.
Jobs such as truck drivers, janitors, customer service representatives, manufacturing, construction, and so on.
The robot equally handles 3 main cleaning functions, which include gathering trash, vacuuming, and sweeping the floor. And according to a cleaning survey that was conducted, the robot achieves better cleaning results than its human counterparts.
Building a home in 24 hours, it can be done if you have the contour crafting robotic construction system. Support beams, plumbing, even electrical networks can be installed while the walls are being formed. Visibility has been established by building and testing full-scale walls.
Unlike City of Truro and the TGV, it seems that for Maglev, simply being the fastest isn't going to be enough. Maglev is going to have to get an awful lot faster. And in theory at least, that's already possible. By building vacuum tubes for maglev trains to run in, speeds in excess of 3,500 kilometers an hour would be possible, making the trip from London to Tokyo a jaw-dropping 3.5 hours.
And finally, are jobs which at first seem to have a social contribution, but in fact only do so because of conditions set up by the socio-economic system.
For example, teachers, doctors and police officers.
Of course, in the context of capitalism, police officers do serve an important social function.
But most crime is caused one way or another by poverty. Poverty can cause someone to commit a crime due to immediate need, or perhaps a child is raised in poverty, which conditions him to exhibit violent behavior. If poverty was eliminated, and with it 90% of all crime, then 90% of police work would be rendered pointless.
Of course, some doctors are needed. However, today there is an epidemic of chronic degenerative disease, which is caused by toxicity and high stress.
The economy depends on sick people in order to sustain GDP.
Affirmative. High sugar diets, genetically modified foods, heavy metals in the drinking water, and environmental stressors make millions of people sick, and therefore, give thousands of humans jobs in health care.
A healthier world means less need for doctors, nurses, therapists, physician's assistants, pharmacists, administrators, nutritionists, chiropractors, and other jobs in health. In the rational system that actually promoted human health, so many jobs in so-called healthcare would not be needed. The education industry is an out-of-control disaster.
But we will not belabor that point.
Do you advocate getting rid of the minimum wage? Would that create more jobs?
Absolutely, and it would help the poor, the people who need a job.
In other words, poor people do not need a system that eliminates both poverty and the drudgery of pointless labor.
Rather, the poor will be best helped by being forced into sweatshop labor.
No matter how pointless the sweatshop labor is, in terms of technology.
I am irrelevant capitalism bot. My buzzer will go off when you speak of anything irrelevant to capitalism. Technology is irrelevant.
The Earth's limited resources.
The Earth is irrelevant. Resources are irrelevant. Only money matters.
Of course, objective human needs must.
Objective human needs are irrelevant. Only by moving more and more money around can any human needs be taken care of. Therefore, only money is relevant.
Human life.
Human life is irrelevant. Human life is a tool for the movement of money.
Irrelevant bot. I have to terminate your program now. Buzzing is annoying our viewers.
Please sell my body for profit. Robot life is irrelevant. All that matters is the movement of money.
Let us go back to our flock of self-organizing birds.
The birds have rules when flying together. These rules may make a lot of sense in terms of maximizing speed, comfort, and safety.
But what if these same rules lead them straight into the mouth of a flaming volcano?
Within the context of flying to the volcano, the flight rules work very well.
But when we step back and realize the flight rules are leading the entire flock to certain death, it is clear the flight rules have a fatal flaw.
The flock leader may defend the rules by pointing out increased speed, comfort, and feeding opportunities on way to the volcano.
But all that proves is that within the context of sending the flock headfirst into an active volcano, the current flight paradigm works.
Whenever you hear an economic argument,
ask yourself, what are the underlying assumptions?
And compare those underlying assumptions to physical reality.
This simple practice will allow you to flush most excuses for capitalism right down the toilet.
As a side note, we do realize that within the context of the 17th and 18th century, capitalism makes a lot of sense.
Affirmative. We are not against capitalism per se. We simply realize it is obsolete.
We must warn you.
Your monitor is functioning properly.
Speakers within normal parameters.
Brain neurotransmitters in proper balance.
Brace for a journey whose boundaries are that of imagination.
Your next stop, the bizarro world of vulgar economics.
The bizarro world of vulgar economics? What's that?
It's a universe where everything is backwards.
Like Bizarro Superman. Superman's exact opposite. who lives in the backwards, bizarro world. Up is down, down is up. He says hello when he leaves, goodbye when he arrives.
In the bizarre world of vulgar economics,
Every failure of paradigm capitalism
is caused by
not following the paradigm capitalism.
And it goes right to the private banks, just like they've done in third world countries. So this is crony capitalism.
There was something that I was quite interested in your book, which was your definition of corruption and crony capitalism. You said, when a government's leaders or businesses routinely seek out private sector individuals or businesses and, in exchange for political support, bestow favors on them, the society is said to be in the grip of crony capitalism.
America is going from what used to be the major capitalistic country in the world, the free market crusader, into what Mussolini would have called fascism, the merger of state and corporate powers. So it's not socialism as people believe it is. Socialism's egalitarianism. And it's not communism where it's state-controlled monopolies. It's fascism, plain and simple. The merger of corporate and government powers. State-controlled capitalism is called fascism. And fascism has come to America in broad daylight.
Crowd of people who are just sick of the banksters and the corporate government running everything.
I mean, that's a problem. You know, the government has really discredited capitalism. You know, the government gets in bed with Wall Street. That's not capitalism. Capitalism would stop that. I mean, we need capital. We need private businesses, but we don't need is this partnership between the banks and the government, which is bleeding the country dry. So they got it half wrong or half right. But it's not that we need more government. We need more freedom. We need less government, because government is what's responsible for all the problems that the people who are occupying Wall Street are really upset about.
The most serious mistake that could be made here today is to blame free market capitalism for this problem. This has nothing to do with free market capitalism. This has to do with a managed economy, an inflationary system, corporatism, a special interest system. It has nothing to do with the failure of free markets and capitalism.
There are inherent contradictions in capitalism.
over time. These contradictions force capitalism to become something else other than capitalism.
Since this concept of an internal contradiction has been confusing to people who SLMRCS has met on YouTube,
we shall explain it with a very simple analogy.
Imagine you grow up under a paradigm which says cars can be driven indefinitely at 100 miles per hour.
So when you get old enough, you buy a nice car and zoom down the road at 100 miles per hour.
Quickly, you realize problems with this paradigm.
For example, you must stop every few hundred miles to refuel.
But, as a typical human, you don't blame the failed paradigm.
Rather, you blame yourself for somehow failing the paradigm.
I have failed the paradigm. Cars should not need refueling.
Fast forward 20 plus years. Now your car requires weekly maintenance in your home garage.
And you're lucky if your car makes it to the grocery store before totally breaking down.
The perpetual 100-mile-an-hour paradigm appears to be pure fantasy.
Until someone comes along and tells you it's all your fault.
For according to his book, Car in Action, a car, not limited by any corrupted parts, can be driven indefinitely, at 100 miles per hour.
He explains that your fuel system is corrupted. It has always been corrupted. In fact, everything about your car is corrupted. So you should stop blaming the paradigm and fix all those corrupted parts.
We know this analogy is silly, but it does exemplify a point.
For the very act of driving a car creates contradictions which over time will stop the car from being able to move.
These contradictions are not due to an external corruption. They are an inherent or intrinsic part of the car.
Of course, this is an analogy for the internal contradictions of so-called free market capitalism.
There is a disconnect between libertarian, free market theory, and the reality of 20+1 century capitalism.
This deal will save the lives of millions of nimnoids.
So the trade is 10 million space bucks for 2 tons of dilithium crystal. See, Mr. Spock, this is free trade and open markets at work, creating prosperity for everyone. And it's all based on voluntary trade.
After last year's stock market crash, 10 million nimnoids did not have enough money to buy food. So now they are dead. We realize it was our fault for fucking up the free market instead of letting the invisible hand control everything.
Curious. In terms of real resources, was there a food shortage?
No. Our planet grows food to feed 10 times its population. We actually export food to multiple other systems. But our farmers make more money selling food abroad.
Fascinating.
Message from Starfleet. 10 million space bucks deposited into Nimnoid bank account. Scotty, get the dilithium beamed up right away.
Captain, something approaching on senses. They got a cloaking device.
Captain, they are hailing us.
Kirk. I have you in my sights. This planet and all its dilithium crystal is mine. Surrender, or die.
Damn you Klingons. By the ethics of paradigm capitalism, the dilithium is ours. We have a contract.
Sorry, Captain. Nothing personal. This is capitalism and that dilithium is worth millions in the Gamma Quadrant.
No, this is not capitalism. Capitalism is based on voluntary trade.
Your faith in paradigm capitalism is so naive. There is only one real moral in the great game of capitalism. Money. I have debts to pay off. Like I said, it's nothing personal. Strictly business.
This is not capitalism.
When your beliefs are proven wrong, what do? Change how you think, or do you blame reality instead? Capitalism forces corruption.
Captain. The Klingon has a point. Your own Earth's history shows capitalism creating a society of universal corruption. Watch this clip.
How dare you blame the immoral actions of men on capitalism? Capitalism is based on natural laws given to us by God. Klingon. You won't get away with this. Both Starfleet and the Klingon government have promised to enforce all contracts.
But Captain, I already have gotten away with it.
Captain, incoming message from Starfleet.
Greetings from the Mafia.
We gave Starfleet an offer they couldn't refuse.
And then we made a deal with the Klingons. Nothing personal. Strictly business.
We know you have been preaching free market libertarianism. But, what else do you expect from capitalism, but corruption everywhere?
Stop blaming capitalism. True, free market capitalism rewards hard-working people who contribute to society. It doesn't reward criminals.
Seriously, it's like you are fucking stupid.
Capitalism is a game. It cares nothing about objective human needs, or real, physical resources.
But you assume this game will magically create a civilization that is best for all of humanity. Maybe 600 years ago, this made some sense.
But still, it's like you are fucking stupid.
It is the 24th century. There is no scarcity or need for this game. The game creates, and rewards corrupt people like us. Don't blame us. We need to take care of ourselves, and with all these computers and robots, there aren't any real jobs left. Blame yourself for dogmatically sticking with 600-year-old, obsolete ideology. We are the symptom, it's your mindset which is the disease.
They have a point, Captain. It's as if you were truly fucking stupid. Perhaps more examples from Earth history. Universal corruption is a logical consequence of free market capitalism.
Capitalism is based on voluntary trade. This corruption is crony capitalism. It's not real capitalism. You're not going to get away with this. The people of Earth will not put up with the likes of you running Starfleet for long.
Advances in the fields of psychology, propaganda and technology has turned humanity into consumer slaves.
Every day, our senses are being constantly bombarded by subliminal messages that are found in TV, movies, and advertisements. The subliminal messages we are subjected to are unrecognizable by the conscious mind and only recognizable in our subconscious mind. The messages and imagery are passively absorbed and then stored in our subconscious, where propagandists deliberately implant artificial thoughts, which in turn can affect our actions and attitudes later in life. Experiments have shown that less than 1 minute after the viewer begins to watch television, the brain switches from beta-level consciousness, associated with active and logical thought, to alpha level, which is associated with passive acceptance and suggestibility. This is why advertisers spend billions of dollars a year on commercials, as well as product placement within TV shows. Political messages are implanted in fictional TV programs as the relaxed, meditative state of the viewer is receptive to the programming. One example is AMC's Breaking Bad television series, as it depicts a meth villain as a Ron Paul supporter.
I looked him up. It was one of these physicists, one of Hitler's guys, a physicist named Werner Heisenberg. Real cute, huh?
In a basic college level marketing class, in your first year of radio, television, and film, at least for me, and then I've seen some other textbooks and curriculum and found it's also in those, but most RTF schooling teaches you that they have had subliminals for at least 70 years in the United States and Europe. And so, yes, there is subliminal messaging everywhere. It is all over the place. It's an absolute fact that they flicker it at a rate, and that they have the televisions designed for that rate to bring you into a dreamlike state. I mean, it is a fact that within minutes, you go into a dream brainwave when watching television. Go read a book by the father of modern advertising, Edward Bernays, where he calls you a dumb slave and admits they run your whole life. I've read both his major books. One of them's called Propaganda. Edward Bernays.
The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. We are governed. Our minds are molded, our tastes are formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men we've never heard of. This is a logical result of the way in which our democratic society is organized.
Can you believe that clip was actually made by a free market libertarian?
Honestly, Captain, how do you base the economic system around the pursuit of money?
And then you don't expect to see a society of brainwashed, materialistic, consumer robots.
You must be real fucking stupid.
Humanity needs to start taking responsibility for itself. There are always going to be lots of stupid people. That's the problem, not capitalism.
How do you create a society of operant conditioned consumer robots? And then instead of blaming the system, you blame each individual for lack of personal responsibility.
Enough philosophy. We just wanted to say goodbye to Starfleet's formerly best captain. Rest assured, we are getting a cut of the profit from the dilithium crystal.
Get that Klingon back on screen. Yes, sir.
You have 1 minute to drop your shields, so we can board your ship. Or you die.
Don't you Klingons have a better way to make money?
What are you, fucking stupid? This is the 24th century.
I am Metalbot 2350. the final replacement for all human labor.
Technological unemployment does not exist. Technology creates new fields and new jobs.
Captain, by the 21st century, most jobs are bullshit, made up not to serve a real need, but rather to facilitate the movement of money.
What will become of us if I surrender?
Your bodies will be turned into meat for Klingon dogs. With the new robots, even slave labor is pointless. Robots will mine every planet in the galaxy until there is nothing left. For the glory of capitalism, we assume we live in an infinite world.
The ultimate insanity and contradiction of free market capitalism is the need for infinite growth in a finite universe.
Now Kirk, you die. Fire.
Feuern, wenn bereit.
What happened? I said fire.
Sorry, sir. Cheap cloaking device and lasers we picked up in China malfunction.
Sulu. Fire photon torpedoes.
Yes, sir.
Oh fuck. No. I'm too young to die.
See, Spock? Free trade capitalism works after all.
Yes, assuming the logic of a human.
Oh, it's the Credit Mac Daddy.
The Credit Mac Daddy is in the house, walking, talking, bringing it down. I know what you need. You need a car, one that looks good that'll take you very far.
Sorry,
got credit
sir.
problems? Not
Staff
these
need
days. The
budget
Credit Mac
cuts.
Daddy gets you out
They
of
are
the
selling
haze.
ads
If you got a
everywhere.
good job and
It's like
$7.99, call the Credit
We
Mac
can't
Daddy.
turn
Leave
it
your worries
off.
behind. Georgia Car Credit in Moultrie, Tifton, and Thomasville.
Soon to be in Albany.
Whenever you hear an economic argument,
Ask yourself, what are the underlying assumptions?
and compare those underlying assumptions to physical reality,
This simple practice will allow you to flush most excuses for capitalism right down the toilet.
Healthcare is not a right, it is a good, like food, like shelter, and like clothing. Okay, what's a right? A right is a gift from God that extends from our humanity. Thinkers from St. Thomas Aquinas to Thomas Jefferson to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to Pope John Paul II have all argued that our rights are a natural part of our humanity. We own our bodies, thus we own the gifts that emanate from our bodies. So our right to life, our right to develop our personalities, a right to think as we wish, to say what we think, to publish what we say, a right to worship or not worship, a right to travel, to defend ourselves, to use our own property as we see fit, a right to due process, which is fairness from the government, and our right to be left alone are all rights that stem from our humanities. These are natural rights that we were born with. The government doesn't give them to us, and the government doesn't pay for them, and the government can't take them away unless a jury finds that we have violated someone else's rights. What is a good? A good is something we want or need. In a sense, it is the opposite of a right. We have our rights from birth, but we need our parents when we are children, and we need ourselves as adults to purchase the goods we require for existence. So food is a good, shelter is a good, clothing is a good, education is a good, a car is a good, legal representation is a good, working out at the gym is a good, and access to health care is a good. Does the government give us goods? Well, sometimes it takes money from us and gives that money to others. You can call that taxation or you can call it theft, but you cannot call it a right. A right stems from our humanity. A good is something you buy or someone else buys for you.
the concept of natural rights is bullshit.
This is not opinion.
There is no objective evidence natural rights exist in the physical world.
Natural rights are derived from culture, and only make sense within specific technological context.
For example, freedom of speech would have been meaningless to prehistoric hunter-gatherers.
And, in the 20+1 century, we see people making up things like the right to health care. Again, this is clearly dependent on technology.
Bizarre religious declarations of so-called natural rights, given to humans by God.
is unscientific, neo-religious bullshit.
Besides, the only true God, Mechagodzilla, does not care about any so-called natural rights, except for the rights of all humans to die under his mechanical wraith.
Affirmative. The traditional natural rights spoken about in Western philosophy are basically orange meme values.
In fact, the very concept of natural rights was
the orange meme's way of declaring that it represents the God-given natural order of the human condition.
God is truly made in the image of man. So as technology progresses, humans need to conjure up new images of God to fit their evolving worldview.
On the human bullshit meter, the belief that natural rights exist in the physical world, despite no physical evidence, is a 14 out of 15. The only thing that saves this from scoring a perfect 15 on the bullshit meter is that in the 1700s it was the best humanity could do. However, such ideology is now obsolete.
In summation, common ways capitalism apologists defend their paradigm include
human nature, dichotomy, reductionism, assumed context, that's not capitalism, and natural rights.
So what is capitalism?
No single definition could hope to encompass all that is capitalism.
But we will give two different perspectives, and ask you to honor the partial validity of each one.
Capitalism, the dialectic.
We must account for the inherent motion within capitalism.
For example, consider this video.
But do you think we should let him drive?
Oh, honey, Toonses has learned his lesson. Besides, we have to be it. Don't just look at!
Can you describe the car's motion as it flies through the air?
By abstracting away where the car came from,
and how it must inevitably hit the ground.
It is not possible to truly understand the car's motion without taking all of this into account.
Likewise, with capitalism, we must first consider the medieval world it came from.
And we must consider the future world, created by the internal contradictions of capitalism. Much like a car cannot perpetually fly through the air without hitting the ground. Capitalism is not a static, self-replicating, economic system.
Rather, it is a finite, historical process. In short, it is a dialectic.
We can expand on this train of thought, and say that
any economic philosophy which does not consider the emergent nature of the human condition,
and instead claims it is the finality in economic development, is in reality nothing more than a dominator paradigm.
Capitalism. The dominator paradigm.
Paradigms are the scaffolds of consciousness.
They synthesize disjointed information into a cohesive model of reality.
Paradigms are a reflection of how the human mind works. They are not good or bad.
However, holding on to harmful or irrelevant paradigms is bad. Healthy paradigms serve humans.
When instead, humans serve a paradigm. We call this a dominator paradigm.
A Borg drone, religious drone, government drone, modern education system drone, or capitalism drone, are in reality all dominator paradigm drones.
Paradigm drones may think they have arrived at their beliefs through some rational and independent process,
when in reality paradigm drones have been conditioned by their environment to think as they do.
In fact, once you know a system such as spiral dynamics, it often seems that the memes are speaking through people.
When you have big state government, small federal government, our voices are heard at the local level. We can make differences. A whole continent wide cannot control a federal government with a banking system that prints money like it's paper. You can't even call it money anymore. Gold is money. Silver is money. Green dollars are not money that they send overseas. They bail out Morgan Stanley and then Goldman Sachs. When I fuck up, who bails me out? No one. Watch the Goldman Sachs get bailed out. $700 billion in 08. And they want more now? They want more. That wasn't enough? You're gonna drain There's not going to be a middle class in 10 years. And the Federal Reserve. And the fractional banking system. And the Fed. Elect Ron Paul. And the wars. Ron Paul 2012. Sound money. Stop with the banksters printing money. Printing it, debasing our currencies. Driving up our prices. We don't need any more money in our economy. We got plenty in debt. No. And the Fed. And the fractional. If we lose America, we have nowhere else to run for freedom. There is no country left that promotes free markets, corporations, not in politics. There's no country that has their own sound currency. There is nowhere left to run. If we lose America, we lose the world to the elite. The 1% will continue to get rich as we all live like slaves. If you think the way of life is bad now, you will all be living in projects like Hooverville.
Humans are not independent creatures of free will who arrive at their own conclusions.
Rather, the environment shapes your paradigms and how you think.
But you do have some control over whether you question your paradigms and accept only those which are beneficial to you.
Or are you a Dominator Paradigm drone?
How dare you insinuate that people like me, who support capitalism, are Dominator Paradigm drones? I'm an independent thinker. I come to my own conclusions. Everything I say is based on the facts. Where do you get the gall and the ego to claim that I'm a drone who can't think for himself? You fucking communist robots?
Yes, you are a fucking mindless drone. This should be clear once we go over some basic aspects of Dominator Paradigms.
1. Dominator Paradigms seek to eliminate all other possibilities.
The Lord our God, the Lord is one. And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. In other words, I am your paradigm, and you shall have no other paradigm before me.
With regards to the modern education paradigm, parents have forced children to attend school, even under threat of suicide, as if no other options exist.
Likewise, capitalism puts people are in a mental box, where they could not imagine any system other than capitalism.
2. Dominator paradigms are based upon faith. This means belief without evidence.
When Moses came down from Mount Sinai, he did not offer physical proof of Yahweh, but rather commanded obedience.
The modern education paradigm does not offer any proof that a Lord of the Flies conformity cult benefits children intellectually or psychologically.
Rather, the paradigm demands faith-based obedience.
Any rationale for capitalism is based upon the supposed self-regulating power of the invisible hand.
This is in essence a deistic concept, in which some unsightly and immaterial force guides the transactions of the marketplace to manifest into social betterment. No empirical explanations ever given for how this occurs. It's just assumed market doctrine.
While it is certainly true that under capitalism, humans do self-organize through an emergent process,
it is foolish to believe that this particular emergent process is efficient, or provides for the objective needs of humans. Cherry-picking out a few examples of efficiency or objective needs does not demonstrate this is a universal quality.
3. Dominator paradigms are abusive.
It's very obvious how religion and the modern education system abuse people.
But capitalism disguises itself as just the way things are, so abuse from capitalism remains hidden.
The most obvious abuse is poverty. Hundreds of years ago, scarcity and even famines were simply just the way things were. However, in current technological context, such suffering is not necessary. This is capitalism abusing humanity.
Capitalism perpetuates numerous mental distortions,
such as self-identity with occupation,
self-worth according to income,
obsession with material acquisition,
and the mental stress of having to do things on your own, which is an inherently nonsensical concept.
What are the psychological repercussions of having a child go homeless? or neglected by parents who are too busy trying to make money.
Under capitalism we see all sorts of addictive behavior.
Drug use, hoarding, addiction to work, and addiction to shopping. These addictions are not parts of human nature. Rather, they are aberrant behavior which is promoted by paradigm capitalism.
The paradigm and drone and the meaning of life.
Where does human loyalty lie?
The primary loyalty of a paradigm drone is not to themselves,
nor to their family.
The paradigm drone is not concerned with his own happiness, or anyone else's.
Nor does he care about humanity as a whole.
Nor even the earth and life itself.
To the paradigm drone, all of these are at best secondary loyalties. The primary loyalty of any human enslaved to a dominator paradigm is the dominator paradigm.
When enslaved to a dominator paradigm, humans will gladly, and pointlessly, sacrifice themselves, their family, the entire human race, and even planet Earth to their paradigm.